Welcome to the Solid Verbal. And now, Dan and Ty.
Dan Rubenstein, welcome back, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing so well, Ty. I'm doing so well. Even though it's frigid here in the Chicagoland area and I came from a much warmer place, we haven't recorded in some time. And so a piece of me was just missing, Ty. A piece of me was just unfulfilled. And so now that I'm back with my computer and my microphone and this beautiful camera and this beautiful internet connection, Ty, I couldn't be more thrilled to catch up on all things, I guess, college football news briefly, and then into 4 ginormous matchups.
We do have some bangers, don't we?
Absolutely. We do.
And going through these, man, I was fired up. We got some bangers here to talk about. We were going to talk about them a few days earlier, but I got real sick and I couldn't even string a sentence together. You gave me a call after I sent you a note that, hey, I'm not sure how this is going to go. And I could only imagine I sounded like the Night of the Living Dead. It did not seem as if I made a very positive impression on you in that initial phone call.
It was a little bit, you know who Harvey Firestein is? The legendary Broadway actor. He's been in movies. He was a Mrs. Doubtfire. It sounded like Harvey Firestein was sick. It was like I called and hello.
It was so bad.
I know I sound like that. You had a weird, a deeply Brooklyn or Queens accent. It was not recordable, is what I would say.
Well, I'm going to try and give this a go.
Nice.
I do have water close by. Forgive me if I have to hit the dump button every now and again because there will be coughs throughout the course of the next hour or so. But welcome back, one and all. We are doing this live on YouTube on a Monday, which is not something we normally do, but it is the reason for the season because as we turn the page now into the college football playoff quarterfinal round, as we get into 2026, the schedule's all jacked up, man. Everything's different. Doesn't feel the same. We're all discombobulated after months on end of the season revolving around Saturdays. Now they change when they play the games. So we will get into that. As we said, 4 big ones. We will first start off with the news of the week of the, latter stages of the college football coaching carousel. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. Please make sure you hit follow. Please make sure you hit subscribe. Please make sure you head on out to playballbingo.com. That is where you can find the action if you want to get in on all the fun of our postseason bowl game.
Yes.
It's free for all. You just got to sign up as a free or paid member at our Patreon. Again, you can go to playballbingo.com for more info on that. We will be releasing a new card as soon as we can, as soon as we know what the college football playoff semifinal matchups will be. Otherwise, we wouldn't have anything to really bet on. So we'll talk about that. But playballbingo.com is your portal into all things for Ballerhood. If you want to be part of that game, it's free. You can play for fabulous prizes against the Ballerhood, Dan.
Yes, highly recommend. Super fun, an annual bowl tradition, as is Ty and just his laser focus on the Pinstripe Bowl. His national champion, Clemson Tigers, needed 4 full quarters to score 10 points.
I'll have you know that my national champion was the Penn State Nittany Lions.
Oh, excuse me. Number
and
one
though
team in America.
I predicted a Penn State Clemson matchup.
Yes.
In the national championship. Who's to say what your national championship is if you're listening at home? Maybe your national championship was the Pinstripe Bowl.
That's true. That is absolutely.
Life is relative, is it not?
That's the Tom Allen tissue between those teams.
I don't know.
That's my original thought. Anyway, yes, we've had bowl games. We've had some entertaining bowl games, right? North Texas in a shootout. We had the Pop-Tarts Bowl with BYU coming back to beat Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
We had a crazy Hawaii Bowl with Cal blowing, a 21-0 lead.
And then a fight at the end?
It was a pretty ugly situation at the end there for Cal and Hawaii, but a nice win for Hawaii in front of their home fans. So a bunch of fun bowl games, even if there have been a good amount of opt-outs. We got a couple heavyweight programs playing in bowl games. I've got a Michigan-Texas bowl game in Orlando coming up here. But I guess beyond the portal news, and there have been some huge names, quarterback otherwise, a lot of defensive linemen.
Which we'll get into. We'll get into on an upcoming episode, we promise.
Yes, we're going to do a portal show because I think the portal officially opens we're recording this on Monday the 29th on the 2nd. So, and the portal's a little bit different given who's playing when in the college football playoff. Obviously, it extends for teams playing in the national championship game. But we will be seeing a lot of huge names, and we'll be doing a portal show here in the next few days. But I think we should, unless you have any sort of housekeeping or any sort of objection.
No, I want to dive right in, baby.
We should talk about the Michigan Wolverines amateur football program.
Settle. Hold on. Before we go any further.
The coaching
Carousel.
It's the roar. You know what the roar means, don't you?
Yeah.
The roar means we've got another coaching change. It obviously made pretty big news when Michigan moved on from Sharon Moore, given circumstances in Ann Arbor. Michigan had been rumored with a bunch of other names, right? Kalen DeBoer was up there. Jeff Brom was up there. Our guy Jed Fish was up there. You name it.
Yeah.
All the big names were at least asked. Kenny Dillingham, another one, got his extension at Arizona
I
State.
think Todd Monken had a conversation reportedly, with Michigan.
Heard all sorts of names, but in the end, they go for the recently retired, now out of retirement, Kyle Whittingham.
Hold on. Let me push back a little. He never used that word. He never used the retirement word.
Well, he retired from Utah.
The
Resigned, stepped back from Utah.
Is the terminology that was used, and I think it was very carefully used, was stepping down. He never used the word retire. So I just want to be clear.
Well, he's not retired, so it doesn't matter. But
correct.
He stepped down from Utah, where he had been in some capacity since 1994. He's been the head coach now since 2005. 177-88, his career record as coach of the Utes. He has never coached east of the great state of Utah, but was very much on the market after stepping back from Michigan. As you said, did give that carefully worded statement, thought it was time to step back at Utah, turn it over to his predecessor, but he was out there. Kyle Whittingham was a name. Obviously, early on in the search, garnered some interest. Could he be interested in that Michigan job? I know his name kind of waxed and waned a little bit. Would he be interested? Would that be a fit? They make it official. It is, in fact, going to be Kyle Whittingham taking over at Michigan. I really like Kyle Whittingham. I'm curious to ask you if you like the Kyle Whittingham hire, because I think they are almost two separate questions. Where are you at? I know you made the video from the boat, which was awesome and did well.
Thank you. It took maybe 3 hours to upload, given the speeds available to me. But yes, that was about a 75-second video on my phone. Took quite some time to get to you, but we got there.
I think we both like Whittingham, the guy, and I could definitely talk about the pros of bringing that guy to Ann Arbor, given circumstances. But let's talk about the hire.
Yeah.
Does the hire make sense?
Has he been on this show?
Bronco Mendenhall was on the show. I don't think Whittingham was on the show.
Maybe that's the connection. Okay. So my initial reaction was, I guess good for them. Something like that. Those are the words that rattled through my pea brain when I saw that. It was, I think the circumstance, if you go back to the start of what you were talking about, seems to be, given some reporting, given some conversations I've heard, to whatever extent they're true, what has sort of come up time and time again was he wanted to retire legitimately the past couple of years. He had been through a lot, given the tragedies with players on his roster, which were just horrible in Salt Lake City, that he had been there for a long time, that he had taken this team from obviously the Mountain West to the Pac-12 and now the Big 12. It's just a lot of changes, a lot of wear and tear. And you just don't see that many coaches stay at one place for that long. Obviously was incredibly successful right when he took over that program from Urban Meyer. So good, by the way, sidebar, good for Michigan for turning to tried and true Urban Meyer tree. That's kind of funny in its own way. And it seemed like he was not going to step down, but he was going to retire, that he had been through it, and that he had indicated in some fashion to those behind the scenes that he was ready to retire these past couple years. And then sort of had a change of heart and decided he wanted to keep coaching. And the word is, again, I don't have a confirmation from within the Utah Athletic Department that he said he wanted to keep going and sign a new deal with Utah. they have their coach in waiting in his defensive coordinator, Morgan Scalley, who's been very, very good for a long time at Utah, at least as an on-field coach. And they had this weird situation where they wanted to move on to the future, though had to respect everything he had accomplished there, and said, why don't you just coach 2026 and we'll make that transition. And he wanted more time. He re-energized to whatever extent and gave a statement, in fact, talking about like, I don't want to overstay my welcome and I just want to leave before that happens. And so like you could use this jigsaw puzzle, use the pieces to piece together what was sort of happening, especially with what all the word has been behind the scenes.
Right.
He steps down. Michigan's in this terrible situation where they're going after guys. They're not going after guys, but it's reported they're going after guys. It's late in the process. And there just isn't that sort of interest from the names that they are rumored to be chasing in the way that they'd like. Reed, Kalen DeBoer.
No.
And obviously Alabama wins its opening round matchup. And the word was Michigan was hoping that they wouldn't win because they're banking on Alabama being sort of sour on him and not offering him a big deal after losing an opening round game in the college football playoff. And they win the game. He's happy in Alabama. He talks about how happy he is. He's not entertaining anything, whatever. They move on. They interview guys or they like talk to agents, whatever the process is. And they land with Kyle Whittingham kind of falling into their lap.
No.
My thought on Kyle Whittingham is he's legitimately an excellent coach. Now, the question then becomes, is he an excellent coach for this specific place, which you mentioned has not left that state in quite some time, and recruited that state in Idaho and California and that sort of part of the country, not in a national way or a heavily regional way that Michigan recruits, and that they had a ton of success with under Jim Harbaugh and recruited very well with Sharon Moore going into places like Texas and stuff like that. So the question then becomes, what is Kyle Whittingham's ceiling? What is Kyle Whittingham's floor? How long will he be there given his age at 66? And he signed a 5-year deal with Michigan. Do I have that correct? For about $8.5 million per?
Correct.
Somewhere in that range.
Yep.
He was great at Utah because they played really good football. They developed really well, especially along the lines. He got better as a recruiter as time went on, especially along those lines. You know, guys like Jalen Johnson and Clark Phillips were huge successes in the secondary. They recruited tight end and developed tight end pretty well to really well in some cases. Recently, we had Dalton Kincaid and Brant Keefe. Guys like that were great, and mentioned the linemen already. But now it's, can he recruit to Michigan in the way that Jim Harbaugh did and develop and win when you now are looking down a schedule of, take your pick, Oregon, Indiana, Ohio State, Penn State, Indiana, like schools like legitimately USC, right? USC just demolished them this year. He hires BYU's defensive coordinator, reportedly, and Jay Hill, who's good, maybe not excellent, but I mean, to have a really strong defense at BYU is an impressive thing. BYU is in the Big 12 championship game.
I like Jay Hill a lot, actually.
The BYU linebackers, especially this year, were otherworldly.
I like Jay Hill.
And I think the word is Jason Beck, but nothing official, bringing an offensive coordinator to Michigan. So the question is, again, what's that ceiling? What does Bryce Underwood think of the hire? They've met. He's started meeting with players. Guys like Andrew Marsh, who look like they are long-term potential game changers, all conference type players. You know, what the guys on defense coming in or younger players on defense, what does the portal look like when, Whittingham has a chance to speak with his players and sell them on his vision for Michigan? And how close can they get to where they were 2-3 years ago when Kyle Whittingham is not known as that killer roster builder because Utah didn't win those conferences, right? They got close, I think, 1 or 2 years. Oh, no, sorry. They did win the Pac-12, right? They beat USC in a Pac-12 championship game and got to the Rose Bowl and lost to Penn State, if I have my years correct. But was never a playoff presence at Utah.
Yeah, I mean, so look, a couple things sorry.
I just have a lot of Kyle Whittingham thoughts. He's very impressive.
No, I mean, look, all things considered, Michigan could have done a lot worse.
Definitely.
It was really late in the game. It was awkward. It was never going to be good. I mean, from a PR standpoint, it's been horrible for Michigan.
Yes.
And so I think to go out and get a guy like this, he's just available on the open market. It fits. It fits really well. he does like to play a physical brand of football, which is going to be, I think, largely compatible with what Michigan's been building.
Agree.
So that part works. The other part that works really well is that Michigan needed an adult. They needed a grown-up to come in and stabilize things. And Kyle Whittingham is that. I saw somebody put out on social media, he's been on Instagram 11 years, has never posted once. Thankfully, follows 5 women, most of whom are related to him, all of whom appeared clothed in their photos. I hate to make that joke, but that's where we're at with Michigan, okay?
Totally.
So on the heels of what has been a very tumultuous run now, if only in the PR department on the Michigan side.
Not just Sharon Moore. It's also
No.
the ongoing Matt Weiss thing. Yeah.
There's a lot going on with that program. Harbaugh was very successful, but there has been some controversy that has followed. So they needed this guy right now to come in and to stabilize the ship, be an adult.
Yeah.
He will do that almost immediately. The con that I see is that, as you mentioned, 66 years old. All right. Doesn't mean he can't be there forever.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, looks like he could play linebacker.
I was going to say, sidebar.
Yeah.
We should all be so lucky to look at Kyle Whittingham at 66.
Right.
Yeah.
If his defensive lines are as strong as his hairline, he's great. He'll be great for a long time at Michigan.
Yes.
I like the guy a lot. I always have. His Utah teams were solid, but they rarely overachieved.
I think solid is underselling it. When Utah was healthy, when they had a healthy quarterback, when they had Cam Rising for 14 years, Travis Wilson for 14 years, this was a legitimately very good program.
I just always was left wanting more from his Utah squads, which is why I say rarely overachieved, and that's a relative scale as well, and I'm just speaking personally.
Yeah.
But that part for me feels like that's going to be a real question that I think is legitimate. What's the staff look like beyond if it is Jay Hill, if it is Jason Beck? I haven't seen confirmation on either for what it's worth, but I've been under the weather here for the last, week.
That seems to be the expectation.
Seems to be the expectation. But if that's the way that they go, I think that would be a nice boost. The roster, you brought this up in the video that you recorded, but you mentioned Bryce Underwood. I would also throw Jordan Marshall in there.
Definitely.
You mentioned Andrew Marsh. I would throw Cole Sullivan in there, the linebacker, right? My expectation is, my expectation is that he'll have no trouble keeping running backs and linemen. And certainly defensively, there's a bit of a track record there, a proven track record for developing those guys and putting a good unit out on the field. But quarterback, wide receiver, what does the development look like on that front? And are those guys, notably Bryce Underwood, Andrew Marsh, guys like that, are they spooked by whatever they have seen from Kyle Whittingham's previous tenure at Utah? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. Certainly there would be a market for those guys if they decide to throw their name in the portal.
Yeah.
So I like it on some levels. On others, I remain a bit skeptical to see whether or not it's going to work longer term. But I think all things considered, again, if you're Michigan, much like it was at Penn State, it got laid early to have Matt Campbell, to have Kyle Whittingham essentially fall off the back of a truck into your open arms. That's a pretty good place to be.
Yeah.
So I would grade the high. I don't know what I would grade the higher. B+ if you're Michigan, A-. Of all available options, I think they got a guy that can step in and at least provide much of what they need right from the get-go. So kudos to them.
And I would say, by the way, we're talking about comparing what Michigan might be able to do under Kyle Whittingham when you weigh them against, obviously Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon, the best of what they can accumulate in terms of talent and roster depth. We're also living in a portal era. We're also living in a time where Michigan is one of a handful of schools nationally where players grow up just wanting to go there no matter who the coach is, right? That it's a sell itself type of school, and was reinforced under Jim Harbaugh. No matter all of the recent turmoil, there are still kids across the Midwest, across the country with connections. Obviously, Jim Harbaugh did a great job, going through the South and going to Texas, stuff like that, to really raise the Michigan flag more than it had been previously. But in the portal era, if he's able to maintain that, the obvious concern once the players are there is that he was never able to figure out an offense that could develop a legit killer at quarterback with a downfield passing attack that would scare teams. And that's exactly where Michigan fans have been these past couple of years. Where is that guy? Is Bryce Underwood that guy? Is Chip Lindsey that coordinator? Are these receivers? Can we find a guy in this receiver? And never happened at Utah. That they found, obviously Jason Beck this year did a good job with Utah on the ground. But it just never happened no matter who the quarterback was. And I don't know if that was by design, but if you're looking at something that Utah was not able to accomplish, they were never really able to figure out that level of aggression. And Michigan won without it. They won the national championship without it. But in order to have that pitch, I don't know that my first call would be Kyle Whittingham. But for all the reasons we mentioned otherwise, it seems like they're going to be in a really good place. My gut, given the circumstance, given what the Big Ten looks like, is, and this was my initial gut thing, was like, if they could get to the point where they look like the best of Paul Chryst at Wisconsin, right? Running the ball, killer defense in the Big Ten, could beat legitimately anyone until maybe the Big Ten championship game when they couldn't quite match up against teams like Ohio State. If they can get there in the next couple years,
I mean, that's kind of what they've been, isn't it?
What Michigan's been?
Is it not?
Well,
they were not the brand of football they've been playing.
They were a better version of what Paul Chryst was. I'm saying if they can get to like the best of like late teens Wisconsin.
Well, fair enough. But this is why I say that it's at least compatible on some level.
Definitely compatible.
Right, because Whittingham will want to play that style of football. I mean, we talk about it often. We've talked about it, I feel like, a multitude of times here now through the coaching carousel where a coach didn't work out because they came in. I mean, we're dealing with it right now with Luke Fickell at Wisconsin, where at least initially tried to play a brand of football that didn't seem compatible with what Wisconsin had been. Granted, that's not everything, but I think in this case it fits, at least with the roster that they've got on hand. We'll see if he can retain it. We'll see what the staff does look like. There are, some reported names out there, but once some of that stuff becomes a little bit more finalized, we can revisit and give you an update on our sense for where things are at. But again, I'll resort back to my line. All things considered, this is a very, very good hire from Michigan.
I think so too. I think so too. It's not looked at as a dozen-year hire.
No.
I don't think those exist anyway, so it doesn't matter. If he can get Michigan, back to solid ground in the next year or two, he pays for itself.
Let us know your thoughts. solidverbal@gmail.com. Dan, you want to talk some playoff games?
Can't wait.
Dan, Ty, help. I need picks of the week.
We got 4 of them. We got 4 of them for you. It is the college football playoff quarterfinals. These games are bangers.
Mm-hmm.
I have a few questions for you before we get started.
I can't
Bigger
wait.
picture, higher level stuff, okay?
I can't wait.
And I want you to answer them vaguely.
Okay.
Generally. I don't want you to give away your picks or your predictions or anything like that. But just lay the land type stuff.
Okay.
3 questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
1. Is there a team or there a group of teams among these 8 that we're going to discuss here today that you looked at the matchup and you said, they can't win. They cannot win this game?
No, there is not a team of this 8 that I look at and say, this moment is too big. This matchup is too big for them, whether it's roster, whether it's situation, whether it's matchup, whatever. No, there is not one of those 8.
That was the first thing that I thought of when I went through all these matchups.
Yeah.
There was not a single team in this group of 8 that I looked at and I said, there's no way. They're completely overmatched. We had that in the previous round.
We did.
That was the argument against the way that the playoff is set up.
Don't get me started, Ty.
It's a whole other episode, right?
Yeah.
But there weren't any of those matchups here, which I thought was a good sign, at least for us at home.
It seems that everybody has something that if they are operating to their fullest, can do that something well enough to win. 2,
this is a huge storyline last year.
Mm-hmm.
This year, did you look at any of these matchups and factor in the rust factor? I've got air quotes going for people who
studied rust this morning. I wanted to get it right. The oxidization.
You can't even get the word right.
I can't even get the word right. But the presence of moisture, getting that yellowish brown on iron or steel. Yeah.
Did you just want to go back to your vacation spot and let me know when you're in the right headspace to do an episode of this magnitude?
Don't threaten me with a good time, Ty.
How many of the matchups did you look at and seriously consider rust?
All
of them.
Yeah. All of these matchups, I seriously considered rust. Obviously, we're going to have a layoff for teams like, what is it going to be? It's a layoff for Ohio State, a layoff for Georgia, a layoff for Indiana, and a layoff for Texas Tech. of somewhere in the vicinity of 26, 27 days, right?
Third and final question.
Yeah.
How many games did you look at and you felt you were on the fence? You might still be on the fence about who the winner is going to be. Not point spread.
Right.
Outright winner.
2 of these games.
I'm on 2 as well.
Yeah.
We're going to agree again, which is bad news for you.
Yeah.
But I already know which 2 they're going to be.
Okay.
Let's start on New Year's Eve. As you know, we got this great new tradition where they play a game on New Year's Eve. In our bowl bingo matchup, as one of my Ty Goofy props, I had that this game will finish after midnight as something that people could select.
Oh, okay. Midnight Eastern.
Midnight Eastern. It would take a lot, but of course, I'm talking about the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic, Dan. It is going to be called by Dave Pasch and Dusty Dvorak, and Quint Kesenick down on the sidelines grew his hair out, which kind of threw me for a loop earlier this year.
Oh, nice. Okay.
7:30 on ESPN. It is the 10 seed, the Miami Hurricanes. It is the 2 seed, Ohio State Buckeyes. Ohio State currently favored by about 9 points. Depends where you look. I've seen it at 8.5. I've seen it at 9.5. Let's go with 9. Split the difference.
Okay, a clean 9.
Your over-under is 42.5. For what it's worth, the SP Plus has Ohio State favored by 10.5 points in this game. And notably, the winner is going to play in the Verbo Fiesta Bowl. Verbo, not a sponsor, could be. Next Thursday, or the following Thursday, I should say, which would be January the 8th.
Mm-hmm.
These teams have only played 5 times in their history. Ohio State leads the series 3-2, although technically it is 2-2 because the win in 2010 was vacated. The other kind of vacation, which I hate. I will say that this game gave me a very strong sense of nostalgia because some of us are old enough to remember the 2003 Fiesta Bowl. That's the one that Ohio State won. I don't know if you remember that game.
Yep.
That game had a heavy influence on me as a college football fan.
Yeah, for sure.
Not just like the drama of it, but like the Willis McGahee injury in the 4th quarter, which I still remember like it was yesterday. So many memories for me came from that game. And I think played like a large part in me doing this now because I just remember the drama that surrounded it.
I remember where I watched from, for sure.
So my big question about this game is whether we're going to see another game of pickleball. We got 2 awesome
in the way
teams
that we
here.
saw from last week, Miami, Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Well, weather's not a factor. It's indoors. And I thought weather was a major contributing factor
wind.
to some struggles. Yeah,
For sure.
And we saw kicking disasters last week, or I guess last round, whatever it is. I think it's a worthwhile question. Continue.
It's a pickleball question, but we got 2 great teams. They just happen to be among the least explosive in college football.
Mm-hmm.
So with that as the backdrop, Dan, what comes to mind first when you're trying to break this game down? Where's your head at?
Is Ohio State not explosive this year? I don't have it in front of me.
No.
Oh, okay. They
I
were
mean,
more
they can.
deliberate this year.
They have explosive players.
That's true. I'm looking at it right now. Yeah. Yards per successful play, 108th in the country. Okay.
Yeah, which I think is probably going to be weird for some people to hear. Like, we don't really talk about Ohio State in those terms.
It was a lot of heavier sets this year. They played slower, so they weren't able to sort of maybe generate plays that ended up with missed tackles because they're playing quicker and wearing down defense, whatever. And that was by design, that they have fresh legs for January. You know, how they beat Washington, how they beat whoever during the regular season is not as important as how they beat, in this case, Miami, as we head into the new year. All worthwhile. So do you want my read on this?
I do. And one final point on the explosiveness thing. It's not everything. It is one of the indicators that I know you and I like to look at.
Mm-hmm.
And it certainly doesn't mean that they don't have big plays in them. Okay. We know that they've got big players who can make big plays. But if we take the overall profile of what Ohio State did this season, either because of the heavier sets or playing slower, or, you know, maybe a very deliberate effort to try and minimize how many plays they were running, knowing that they were in this thing for the long haul, whatever reason, in terms of all the explosiveness numbers that we look at, they came up much lower this year.
Right.
Miami, maybe for a different reason, is sort of similarly formulated.
Yep.
So with that as the backdrop, yes, take it.
Okay, so if we were finally able to see a weakness in Ohio State, and there's conversations about the Ohio State offensive line during the season, as they were up and down running the ball. I thought they got to a pretty nice place by the end of the season running the ball, but offensive line and the way it was exposed against Indiana, who had Julian Sayin on the run and had him confused, had this offensive line. They had to make changes at halftime, dealing with a beat up offensive line on the inside a little bit, I believe. That taking that question into a game against Miami's defensive front should be worrying to a certain level. To say Miami's defensive front, especially what they are on the edges, to say that they're legit is sort of underselling. This is an excellent group that can get after a quarterback and cause havoc.
Yeah.
And so my main focus on what Ohio State does when they have the ball is if they do struggle, how do they adjust? How do they adjust to Miami's chaos in a good way? Is it a screen game thing? Is it, going to the perimeter a little bit more? Is it, getting the ball out quickly? Is it more RPO stuff? That to me is a huge question for Brian Hartline and Ryan Day as they call this offense. Brian Hartline, by the way, also the coach of USF as they prepare for this game.
That's right.
You have all sorts of fun. You mentioned the national championship rematch from 20 plus years ago, but like Jeremiah Smith is a Miami and South Florida legend in this one. So there's going to be emotion there from their most explosive player. I think the key for Miami, right, is possessing the ball. They're coming off a game with Mark Fletcher's game of his life on offense. I think when Miami has the ball, it's what are they doing outside of the wizardry of Malachi Toney?
Right.
Last game, it was Mark Fletcher. I think Miami fans are still kind of, if you pulled them aside and say, how'd you feel about that play calling against Texas A&M? I don't think they're super pleased that how long it took to just give Mark Fletcher the ball on the inside with how he was running. And so what does Miami look like creatively? What do they look like on 3rd and 4th and short? How obvious are they in the red zone? This good red zone offensive team. I'm not sure I see a way for Miami to win this game if the final score isn't similar to what it was in the
I agree.
Big Ten championship game for Ohio State.
I agree with
that. It's in that 17-13. Because the lack of creative pop from this Miami offense outside of feeding Malachi Toney worries me a little bit. That we talk about winter wonders, and I just don't think, I like some of the younger guys, Gerard Pringle, who was not a factor against Texas A&M. There's a lot to love about this Miami team. But do they have guys who match up with this Ohio State defense in an either 50-50 way or you can't hang with this guy way? And it's hard to put a plural on guy there. And so
yeah,
I think you need that to get to 27 points to 24 points against this Ohio State defense. And short of Miami fully controlling the rhythm of this game and slowing it down and capitalizing the red zone, turning 4th and 1s into 1st and goals kind of thing and punching it in. It's hard for me to see a way for Miami to get to that, 23, 26 point threshold. And look, Indiana had that blueprint. You can beat Ohio State and keep it a low scoring game and win those moments and hit those big plays and rush the hell out of the passer. I just don't think Miami's built for it in this specific way. I don't think the rust is going to be a huge factor for Ohio State. They showed last year not playing in the Big Ten championship game, came out, on fire at home against Tennessee and then again against Oregon. I think their plan is going to be sound, but this is not an Ohio State team that was built like last year's team in terms of experience, in terms of pop all around. Those running backs were terrific for Ohio State last year in a way that Bo Jackson can be sometimes, but is not the star of the show in that same way. So I think Ohio State wins, but I don't see them running away with it because of Miami's defensive front. So
yeah.
in my heart, I have this as 21-14 Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, look, let me back up a little bit.
Please.
A lot's been said this year about the Ohio State defense being a brick wall. And it's probably the best defense in the country. Would you agree with that?
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, I think they're incredible. And
Yeah.
I'm super curious to see how they fare against Miami's line and what they throw at Carson Beck and how they fare against Malachi Toney and how they present some new wrinkles that maybe can confuse what Miami is trying to do. That to me is one chess match. I am most interested in something that you mentioned earlier, though.
Okay.
And that is a different kind of challenge for this Ohio State team because of the combination of Miami's physicality and aggressiveness up front.
Yes.
And this isn't to say they haven't played good defenses this year. We know they have. I just think Miami is a very different mix that's going to ask some new questions of Ohio State. How is their line going to deal with Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor? This is a Miami front that is an absolute wrecking ball. As you said, they're a havoc defense.
Mm-hmm.
And I brought this up a little bit when Miami played Texas A&M, but Miami is top 20 in the nation in blitzes per dropback. They're also really good at getting pressure without blitzing. And furthermore, this is a playmaking secondary. You are not going to go out there and out-athlete these guys. This is a defensive athletes.
Mm-hmm.
So this, for me, is a really good test of how good Ohio State really is offensively. This is what
Miami's
you
got
want
a
to.
lot.
What's that?
I said Miami's defense has a lot. They have a lot
do.
to offer athletically on all three levels.
100%. And so I think like this is what you want to see if you're getting to this stage of the playoff. You want to see the best against the best. And I think this is going to be a really interesting test for that Ohio State offense. So I agree with everything you're saying. 100%. If anything, I'm just trying to reinforce it.
Yeah.
I do think if Miami's going to win, they need to play the kind of game that they played against A&M. It needs to be low scoring. It needs to be ugly. And maybe we call it a rock fight. Maybe you call it a slugfest. Maybe you call it defense wins champ. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever your preferred nomenclature, it needs to be that style if Miami's going to win this game.
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side, I have been on the fence about this game.
Yeah.
I have been on the fence about this game. And my biggest concern here is that Miami isn't really explosive enough to challenge this Ohio State defense. The counterpoint is, well, I said the same thing against A&M.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
they came away with more chunk plays in that game. They were the more explosive team against Texas A&M. It's a big part of why they won. I just think this Ohio State defense has played at such a high level. I think Matt Patricia has done an excellent job. Never mind what we thought of the hire when they made it before the season. He has clearly worked out. And I think they're going to be adding new wrinkles to this one here that can confuse Carson Beck, can maybe force him into taking some risks, which is not something I feel great about from afar.
Yeah. All reasonable. I would also add, in terms of Miami's potential favor, is they have a clearly more seasoned quarterback in Carson Beck. For whatever his mistakes have been this year,
they do.
Carson Beck has played in more big games.
Yeah.
Julian Sainz never started a playoff game. He's never won a Big Ten championship at Ohio State. He's beaten good teams. But in terms of a stage like this, Carson Beck has been on it more. And so if you're asking me who has like the potential for a more catastrophic first quarter, I think it's Julian Sainz.
Couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more.
But to what degree?
This is an Ashanti game, Dan.
It's about us, it's about just me.
I was this close to picking Miami outright.
Okay.
And it would not surprise me at all if they actually ended up winning.
Okay.
But it is about trust.
Yeah.
And heaven strike me down.
Yeah.
For saying what I'm about to say.
Okay.
Which coach do you trust more in a big game?
Well, Ryan Day. Yeah.
Trust Ryan Day, man.
Well, there's also the not to cut you off, Ty. Continue if you want to talk more about Ryan Day.
I trust Ryan Day more than Cristobal in a big game.
Okay.
I don't trust Carson Beck with the game on the line, even though he is, as you said, rightfully so. He's a grizzled veteran at this point.
Yeah.
And I trust the Ohio State offense to find a big play more when they need it than I do this version of the Miami offense.
Yeah.
But I think it's a close game. I think it's a good game. I do think it is more defense-minded. I'm on Ohio State 20-16. I've got the Buckeyes moving on to the Fiesta Bowl.
Okay. So that's kind of 1 touchdown for Miami and 3 field goals pending
Yep.
2 touchdowns and a safety, I guess. But
Yep.
yeah, the concern to just expand on the Julian Sand thing is just like he's never played on this level, and you're just like, we haven't seen it from Julian Sand, right? We saw it with, the Michigan game. That was an impressive performance, all things considered, in the weather. We saw them hold on against Texas to start the season. We saw Julian Sand come up short with the Ohio State offense at the end of the Indiana game. But I'm going to go back to my tried and true. If it's a blowout, I just don't see any way that Miami comes out on top in a blowout. And that's generally where and could be wrong. Miami could win this game 34-10. But if you told me the final score was 34-10 and I could bet $1,000 on who has 34, I think I would go with Ohio State without thinking about it. Right?
No. All right.
Okay.
Let's go to New Year's Day, Dan. 2026.
All right.
Getting
Seems like
old.
a fake year to me. By the way, here's a quick sidebar between games. This freaking playoff is taking forever. Come on, guys. Let's figure out a way to get 3 rounds in 3 weeks, get to New Year's, enormous national championship, and just celebrate a hell of a season. Like, holy hell, is this taking forever? The amount of time off. Like the NFL teams have played 5 games in the time it's taken to get from like the conference championship game to the first and second round. It's insane. Continue.
College football calendar is a popular point of contention.
It's insane. The most arrhythmic, like 11, 12, 13 days between playoff rounds.
You got too many bowl reps with the multicolored jackets that need to get their cut and need to make sure they're involved. And that's why we spread this out and we make this as complicated as it is. And
it's scared of TV stuff with the NFL. Like, just play football and let everything fall into place.
Play every game on like a Wednesday.
Whatever it is.
Every Wednesday. Just play it. Wait 10 days after the season, whatever. Man. Every game, Wednesday after Wednesday after Wednesday, and then we're done.
I think we'll get there. I think we'll probably dump conference championships. Everybody will play their 12. We'll get the teams in. The playoff starts the first week of December. It goes and goes and goes, and we're good. Continue.
High noon, New Year's Day, ESPN, Joe Test, Jesse Palmer on the call. Number 5 seed, your Oregon Ducks, a 2-point favorite, squaring off against the number 4 seed Texas Tech Red Raiders. Yeah, Big 12 conference champion. Your over-under here is 53.5 points. For what it's worth, the SP Plus says that the wrong team is favored. Texas Tech should be favored by 2.5 points.
Okay.
We can debate the merits of that if we want. The winner here will play in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl on Friday, January the 9th. Of note for your Oregon Ducks, they are going to be playing this quarterfinal matchup in the opposite corner of the good old US of A at noon Eastern time.
Yeah.
Which is a body clock situation, is it not?
I think they left today. So for a Thursday at 9 a.m. body clock situation, they'll be in Miami Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night. So I don't know if you can use that as an excuse in the same way that, like, if you're traveling Friday afternoon for a Saturday morning game. I don't know.
That's why
anybody who's listened to this show knows that Ty is the smart one, and I'm just here for looks. Continue.
Sure. That's what everybody thinks.
Yep.
Stylistically, I think this is a really interesting matchup for this specific reason. Texas Tech is used to facing man coverage about 35% of the time. Oregon plays it 55% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, that might create some matchups for Baron Morton.
Yep.
Particularly in the slot where he likes to throw most of his passes. That's where most of them have gone this year on the Texas Tech offensive side. But if you can't find the right matchups, I'm curious to see if Texas Tech's going to break some tendencies. Like I said, they like to throw to the slot, but might they start throwing to guys coming out of the backfield? It hasn't really been a huge part of their offense this season, but Jacoby Williams has been over 12 yards per catch. Could see some more of that against Oregon. Either way, I think Texas Tech needs to have a little bit more balance. And I think they've got to get Cameron Dickey and/or Jacoby Williams going on the ground. And it does not matter to me whether they're handing it off or throwing it to him out of the backfield, a quick pass, an extension of the run game, as it were, whatever. I don't necessarily trust Baron Morton to just go out there and win it on his own. I think they need balance. I think he needs to have a little bit more of a supporting cast if they're going to do this thing against Oregon. Now, Baron Morton, I know Texas Tech people are going to comment on this. We've gotten it all year. Baron Morton has had a very good year. For what it's worth,
beat up, but good.
Beat up. For what it's worth, though, and I know that what I'm about to say here is also a point of contention.
Okay.
If you trust things like passer grades, I know it's a subjective measure. His passer grades have not been great against the better teams on the schedule. He finished the year about the 40th or so highest graded passer in college football. Games against Arkansas Pine Bluff and Kent State and Oregon State and UCF and West Virginia, those games are doing a lot of work to pull up that average.
Mm-hmm.
I like Baron Morton. I do. I just think there needs to be more to this Texas Tech offensive attack against a very good Oregon defense, a good, not great Oregon defense.
Yeah.
If they're going to pull out and merge the victor here.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at on this. So what those wrinkles are, how they incorporate that balance, that to me remains a big open question because I think this is a very, very good defense. They have not seen a defense this good all year. That's where I'm at.
Okay. Yeah, Baron Morton is somewhere around like against the ranked teams that they've played, which I guess is 2 games against BYU and a game against Utah. He's somewhere around the 35th to 45th best quarterback in America from a pure statistical standpoint.
That's right.
Obviously, different quarterbacks play different number of teams and ranked is all relative and everything like that. I think he's had a good year and he's been beat up. Will Hammond stepped in, obviously had a big fourth quarter against Utah, I believe. Didn't have a great game against ASU in that loss. So it should be noted their one loss against ASU was not a Baron Morton game on the road. And ASU was a defending champ and played in the playoff last year. Disappointing season ultimately with Sam Leavitt's injury, but that's the one game.
Yeah.
Okay. I am not going to say what I said when I previewed Oregon, Indiana, which was, I don't know how many players on Indiana would start for Oregon. I'm not saying
don't do that again to yourself.
I'm not doing it again. Period.
You took some arrows from the Indiana community on that one.
You know what? Sidebar, rightfully so. That was a stupid thing to say. When I look at the position groups in this game, I think I give far more advantages to Oregon with clear advantages, I think, to Texas Tech on the edge and an overwhelming advantage to Texas Tech at linebacker. But in terms of talent on hand, and right, that even if Oregon has more talent across the board, we know defense, for example, can be greater than the sum of its parts, and offense, a lot has to do with coordinator and rhythm and quarterback, whatever. I think Oregon is a more talented team who played a tougher schedule. Now, if Texas Tech's defense is in fact as terrific as the numbers imply, then their results completely reflect that, right? That they're holding teams to 0, 7, 6, 10, whatever. They're playing 4 full quarters. They're creating havoc, and especially at linebacker and especially at turning teams over. This Texas Tech defense, no insult implied, was at times, or even like mostly, overwhelming to the teams that they faced, including the best teams that they faced, to be clear. I think Texas Tech this year has been nothing short of excellent. Period. I'm not talking about the schedule. They've performed against the schedule like an elite team should have performed.
I'm waiting for the capital B but, though. Where's the but?
There's no but. Texas Tech is excellent, period.
But there's going to be a transition here. I can feel everybody watching and listening can feel the transition coming.
I also think
Oregon's
ceiling is higher because of their offense. I think the best of Oregon's offense and the best of Oregon's defense combined will play at a higher level. If I'm going to mention Winter Wonders in Miami, Ohio State, I'm going to mention it here. I think Oregon has the potential for more explosion on a big stage at running back, receiver, and tight end than Texas Tech does. I think the best of Dante Moore is better than the best of Baron Morton. I think the best of the Oregon offensive line is better than the best of the Texas Tech offensive line, which, by the way, I think is like the most penalized offensive line in America. I believe their left tackle, and Howard Sampson has something like 14 or 15 penalties this year. That's too many. If you're going to talk about a close matchup, you got to talk about hidden yards. And I think those may exist more for the Texas Tech offense. Again, this Texas Tech offense, at its best, has been outstanding. Hasn't been a great red zone offense. The Oregon has not been a great red zone defense situation. If we're talking about the best of these two teams, including rust factor, which Texas Tech has that Oregon doesn't, I don't love that this game is in Miami for Oregon traveling cross country, but they'll have time there. I think the best of this Oregon defense, and I don't care that much about the second half of James Madison. It was 48-13 near the fourth quarter, and they pulled starters. It doesn't bother me that much. And maybe I'll just be flat out proven wrong here. I think if Oregon is able to block inside, because everybody's going to have trouble with Texas Tech's edges, Romello Height and David Bailey. They're just really, really, really good.
Yeah.
I think if Oregon's able to get some push on the inside, if Jordan Davison is healthy, he left the James Madison game beat up, but by all accounts is ready to go. If they're able to move the ball on the inside and stay ahead of the chains, I think Texas Tech's secondary, again, if Oregon's able to block somewhat these edges, because they're not going to be able to completely block them. They're just too good.
Yeah, I have some thoughts on that. I have some thoughts on that, but continue.
I think the Texas Tech secondary can be had down the field, provided Oregon blocks up these edges.
I agree with that completely.
Oregon healthy at receiver, and now healthy with two outstanding tight ends, in Kenyon Sadiq and Jamari Johnson. Adding DeCorian Moore, Malik Benson's been a revelation. Jeremiah McClellan's been very good.
Is Evan Stewart going to play?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I just don't think so. I don't know. He warmed up and then was in street clothes for the James Madison game. I just think there's more in the way of winter wonders. And I come back to, look, the path for Texas Tech is easy. You just get in Dante Moore's head and you turn him over, and that's the game, right? That Texas Tech can just sit on Oregon in the second half if they're up 17-7.
Right.
That's exactly what would play into Texas Tech's hand. My concern for Texas Tech is their offense slowing down in the red zone, even against Oregon's bad red zone defense, that it's a bigger stage than Texas Tech is used to. It's a bigger stage than Joey McGuire's used to. I think they're going to be really competitive in this game. I think Oregon wins this game by a touchdown. I think it's back and forth. And ultimately in these moments, it's a quarterback and winter wonders thing for me. And so I have Oregon 27-20.
Yeah. I mean, I think I agree with most of what you said.
Yeah.
For me, the biggest key is that Tech pass rush, because it's
Totally.
been the engine for the defense all year.
Yeah.
And one other thing that you mentioned, I know you point out, like the Texas Tech offensive line. I'm curious to see what happens on the right side of that Oregon offensive line, because the numbers say that Oregon's very vulnerable at right tackle, which is something to watch. Do they?
Yes and no. I mean, yes.
Of the spots on that line, statistically, that is the spot you attack. So how does Shieldwood attack that? I don't know. I'm curious to see for myself. But back to what you said and just the broader point here. Okay, now I mentioned. By the way,
related, how does Oregon adjust? Because they really struggled.
Right.
Dante Moore struggled against Indiana when they did not know where the pass rush was coming from. Yeah.
I like the Oregon offense because of its balance, because they can run, because they can throw, and most importantly now, because they're a little bit more healthy than they've been. I don't know if Dante Moore is coming back next year or not. You would probably know that better than me.
Open question in this moment. There have been a couple guys returning that maybe points to it, but it's not a great quarterback class.
No.
Like the Cade Klubnik and Drew Allerization of this year's class has made it a really nice year to be a high-level prospect, which Dante Moore is. Yeah.
And so my point is that this is the type of game for Dante Moore that could raise the volume on him as the number one quarterback off the board.
Totally.
I love this Tech defense. I've loved them all year. Their front seven, the way that Shieldwood in his first year, by the way, in Lubbock has schemed the Tech line to like unlock the linebackers and the edge defenders and all that. All that stuff is damn impressive. And I think for sure it is a huge challenge for Oregon.
Yeah.
But I also like the matchup of the Oregon receivers against the Tech secondary.
Yep.
And I think there will be some really big opportunities for Oregon to take some shots downfield especially if they can get the ground game going.
And that's where ASU, by the way, succeeded. Sam Levitt
It
was
is.
able to avoid the pass rush, which did beat the ASU offensive line, but he was able to buy himself time, and they were able to make hay downfield. Yeah.
We have not seen Tech play that many teams that pose a vertical threat. And I look for someone like a Kenyon Sadiq, tight end, to have a monster game attacking the seams. I think between the hashes, down the middle of the field is where I am looking here.
Some good linebackers and coverage for Texas Tech, man.
There are, but I think
good.
I think there is a matchup that can be exploited on the Oregon side.
Okay.
And there could be even more opportunities if they aren't able to get that pressure, which is what I come back to when I say that pass rush, the effectiveness of that pass rush is going to be key because Dante's mobile. He's better outside the pocket. You can make that case, a very strong case there. And he's very good at keeping his eyes downfield. So even if they scramble him out of the pocket, he keeps his eyes downfield. He's going to look for big weapons like Sadiq. And I think that is the matchup to exploit. That is what I am looking for here. Tech pass rush, even if they get pressure, what does Dante do? And are they able to stretch the field vertically?
Yeah.
I think that's what this game hinges on. I also wavered on this game because it is not hard for me to come up with a scenario in which Texas Tech pulls the outright upset. But I'm going to go with Oregon. Okay. I like the matchups. I think the matchups are in their favor. I think it is lower scoring. I've got it at 23-17. Ducks win.
I think if Oregon turns the ball over twice, they're in a lot of trouble.
Okay.
Truly. But short of that, I do think in January, which technically this is, right? January 1st?
January 1st, yeah.
We're talking about winter wonders.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well in advance. These types of teams tend to be when you have too many, I'm trying to not say questions and answers, but too many questions that need answers, go with the team that poses those questions.
Now that I mention it, I think this is probably our last show of 2025.
That's true.
It didn't even dawn on me, but yeah, happy New Year to everybody.
Are you proud of yourself so far? Do you think you're doing this year justice?
2025?
I'm okay with it. So no, are you happy with this show as like a bow?
I'm surprised that my voice hasn't cut out yet.
You sound great, Ty. You're nailing it.
But we got 2 more games to do and a long way to go, brother. So we'll see.
Let's go. Let's go
to the Rose Bowl presented by Prudential. The Big Rock.
Mm-hmm.
Herbie and Fowler on the call.
Is it bad weather in the forecast in the Rose Bowl?
I don't know. You're the weatherman here.
Oh, Ty. I live in so much bad weather that it all runs together.
You just want everybody to have to deal with it too?
Saturday, there is rain in the forecast in Pasadena. I don't know to what extent. It's been a rainy week or so in California, but this would be on Thursday, right?
This is on Thursday, yes. January 1st, 4 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. It is number 9, the Alabama Crimson Tide versus number 1, the Indiana Hoosiers. They are favored by 7. The over-under here is 48.5 points. The SP Plus is Indiana favored by 13 1/10 of a point.
Sheesh.
The winner would play the winner of your Oregon Ducks and the Texas Tech Red Raiders in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl Friday the 9th.
Mm-hmm. 87% chance or 87% coverage, whatever, of precipitation at kickoff for this
one. Earlier kickoff, too? They moved it up to 4?
Mm-hmm.
It was a big deal because of the sunset or whatever.
Need it.
What a full circle moment for these coaches.
For sure.
You got Kurt Cignetti, who used to be an assistant at Alabama under Nick Saban, and Kalen DeBoer, who used to be an offensive coordinator at Indiana. And then we got the fan base side of it, which is an Indiana team that's historically been one of the worst in college football, but is somehow now the number 1 overall seed against Alabama, ever the blue blood, who was basically one of the last 2 in the field.
Yeah.
What a tangled web this sport weaves.
It's great.
I'm going to ask you a question to start off our little capsule here.
Do you have your Arnold sounds? I'm going to ask you a question. Isn't that from Kindergarten Cop? I know your sounds are all messed up. I'm sorry for putting you on the spot.
They screwed me over something fierce with this soundboard app that I use in the
I'll
iPad.
just play this in its stead.
Diarrhea.
There it is.
Thank you.
There's a sound.
I'm going to ask one question of you to
Okay.
start this off. The mainstream school of thought with this matchup, immediately after Alabama won the last game, the overwhelming sentiment was that Indiana is going to win handily because they're better coached and they're more well-rounded. And from what I could gather, there seemed to be somewhat unanimous approval of that point of view.
Yeah.
Pick your talker. I don't know. I'm not even going to name names, but everybody I saw seemed to be kind of coalescing around this point, whether it was the talkers or even the SP Plus. Again, 13 points. Everybody seemed to be kind of going in that direction, but that runs counter to the public betting trends, which is among this field now of 4 games, the most lopsided in terms of percentage of bets, percentage of money.
Right.
You've got 77% of the bets on Alabama. You got 66% of the money on Alabama plus the 7. So what I'm asking here is there something the talkers are missing? Or is there something that the public is missing just because they like to go with the blue blood?
Right. That this moment is too big for Indiana. They're familiar
Right.
with Alabama in a stage like this. And, obviously Indiana has more of the rust factor. So it'll be whatever it is, 25, 24 days between Big Ten championship game and the Rose Bowl. And we saw how that worked out for Oregon last year in this stadium. I don't know. Like, I understand why you would like Alabama some in this game. You're more familiar with them. They did just play a game. There's more rhythm to Alabama. Both of these teams are kind of beat up along the defensive line. Was it Stephen Daly? I think either led the nation or one of the leaders in tackles for loss. Indiana out for this game, out for the season, I believe, after the Ohio State game.
Right.
And Alabama has been down, Tim Keenan, LT Overton, guys like that, big contributors, but the Alabama defensive line in that second half against Oklahoma, especially against the pass, really came to play. I lean Indiana in this. I'm not with the public where like Alabama's like the name and has the playmakers. I think Indiana's the better team. I think they have more ways to win. I think they can win ugly. I think they can win in a shootout. I think they have the better quarterback. I think in terms of offensive rhythm, I think they're in a better place than where Alabama's been against the better teams. This, back half of the schedule, they can run the ball, they can throw the ball, they can protect. Strategically, they're in a really good place. They're super well coached, whereas Alabama is sort of catch as catch can. I didn't like how they came out against Oklahoma in terms of how prepared they were or lack thereof. I just think Indiana's a more buttoned up team.
No.
I think Indiana has just been a killer, and Alabama has struggled. And they had a great second half against Oklahoma, but the way they came out in that game still concerns me and gives me pause. I don't know. It would just be such a shocker if Indiana was not ready for this game, even with the extended layoff. I think the hallmark of this team is just the effort and the execution and how well coached they are. And so it just does not seem like an Indiana thing at this point, as strange as it is to say.
Yeah, I know.
That
It's still
Indiana
a
is
head
a
trip.
team that is unprepared for a game like this after what they showed against Ohio State, what they showed against Oregon flying to the West Coast earlier on in the season. The rust is real. It's been a whirlwind few weeks. Fernando Mendoza winning the Heisman. It's just a very different time for Indiana football. This is a new stage for this program. I mean, they were in the playoff last year, but it was a road game in state. It's a different deal when you're in Pasadena and you're going through, all the press and all the hoopla.
You know what? It is, but it isn't. Because
Okay.
I think I thought about this a lot. I think you can make the case that the big stage was the Big Ten championship against Ohio State.
Again, also in state though, right?
In state, but to me, just in terms of significance, of course, winning a playoff game, moving on, having a shot at a national championship, that's a whole other echelon.
Yeah.
But in terms of true symbolism, relative to where Indiana has been, beating Ohio State, I don't care where that game was. You could play that game on Mars for all I care.
Totally. You're
Beating
right.
Ohio State in the Big Ten championship is about as big as it gets for a program that has basically been a doormat for the entirety of its history on the football side.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily buy the argument this is going to be too big for Indiana. They have a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. They have a very balanced offense. As you said, it can win a bunch of different ways. They have 3 backs that are averaging 5 yards per carry.
Yeah.
Even Fernando Mendoza can run a bit. He's not
Definitely
a statue
he's
back
athletic.
there.
Yeah.
The biggest issue that I see for Indiana is this. Bama is not great at pressuring the quarterback. They don't blitz a whole lot. They're content to just sort of sit back and play zone, be a top 10 caliber defense, get the ball back to the offense. That's what they've been very good at this year. It's a good defense. Most of their playmaking has come from their back 7. We have seen this almost exact formula against Indiana all year. They're not going to blitz them because Mendoza's too good at figuring it out after the snap. And so how do you stop that? How do you stop Indiana when you're not necessarily going to bring everything at them?
Mm-hmm.
I have a real question about red zone. This is a very good Alabama red zone defense. They're going to go out there. They're going to play bend, don't break.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to force a lot of short stuff underneath. They're going to make Indiana be super efficient to beat them. Alabama needs to force 3s instead of 6s. And that's the formula that I think we're going to see here. And so I say, yes, this is the big issue for Indiana. I mean, Indiana's been a very good red zone offense in their own right.
Mm-hmm.
But I just expect we're going to see 2 versions of the Alabama defense. We're going to see one between the 20s and then another once they get down into the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
I think Indiana's going to have a lot of success nickel and diming their way down the field.
Right.
But I am watching for the red zone. Watch for the red zone. It's true in every game. I think it is especially true in this one if Alabama wants to have any kind of chance here.
Yeah.
Now, the whole idea goes up in smoke if Indiana starts ripping off big runs, connects some big passing plays or anything like that. But I expect Alabama to play a lot of bend, don't break, and to tighten up, especially doubly so once they get down inside the red zone. And this is where we're going to need to see what Indiana is made out of. Can Indiana continue to convert? Maybe it's the stage, maybe it's the weather, maybe it's just, I don't know.
Right.
But can Indiana continue that trend of being a very good red zone offense against a very good red zone defense that I think is going to be ready to batten the hatches and force those field goals at all costs?
Yeah, I would expect to see some of Fernando Mendoza's legs in the red zone too.
I think so. I think we should. I absolutely think that's something they should do.
I'm curious to see, and this again goes back to the Winter Wonders thing. Who on Indiana, especially in the red zone, as you mentioned, who on Indiana at receiver, at tight end, whatever, can force the issue, can win 50-50 balls in the corner of the end zone, right? Like they obviously made plays against Ohio State.
Penn State. I mean, geez, I have nightmares about that play. Omar Cooper
Sure,
Jr.
sure. And Omar Cooper was hurt, but seems to be like he's all right. So they should have Cooper and Becker and Surratt. Like they should have their guys. But if there was anything we saw last year in the playoff, different team. I'm only using this as a half example. This is not a full thing. It's they didn't have those guys against Notre Dame perform and force the issue.
Right.
Different quarterback, different team, so much different.
Better team. Much better team.
This year is a better team. Yes. So I'm just curious who that guy is to force the issue against the talent on Alabama. And honestly, you can very easily say the same thing on the flip side. Who on Alabama, with the sort of disappearance of Ryan Williams for extended stretches?
He's been in the witness protection program since like week 2, Dan.
We saw some from Brooks. We've seen guys step up, Cuevas. We've seen guys for a quarter, for a drive, whatever, step up in a big way. I think it's only fair to point out the same thing with how Ohio State struggled against this Indiana defense. Who on Alabama, especially because we know it's likely not going to be what appears to be a healthy Jam Miller, but it's not going to be the run game for Alabama.
It's a one-dimensional offense. It is a one-dimensional Alabama offense that's going to put a lot of strain on Ty Simpson to make the right reads and accurate throws. Full stop. That is the offense.
So it's Ty Simpson in the rain, like Fernando Mendoza in the rain. Who are the guys who can force the issue and are just like, well, this guy's unguardable and went for 5 catches, 138, and that was the difference. And whichever team has that guy, I think is likely winning this game. Because if you're going to nitpick Indiana, it's what I already said. it's more situational, right? The time off that they're going across the country, Rose Bowl stage. They haven't, the arrhythmic nature of this whole thing that like Indiana's played a lot of big games either during the regular season or in state with the Notre Dame, Ohio State game. Like this is a different beast. And it's a different beast on a certain level for Kalen DeBoer in Alabama as well. But that's the only novel element to this Indiana team because otherwise they're just kicking ass. So I'm taking Indiana here. What was the number one more time?
I've got it at 7 right now.
Okay. I have Indiana winning this game 30-17 and covering.
Okay, so you are going 2 scores.
I am going 2 scores.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
think Alabama's been sort of getting away with it for too long.
I think that's a fair point of view. I think what Alabama did against Oklahoma was impressive, though.
I agree.
I don't want to undersell what they did. Yeah, maybe they came out and didn't look prepared, but the way they got that thing back on track and one going away says a lot about the character of that team. And I just want to reemphasize that. I thought that was really impressive. The way they cashed in on the Oklahoma mistakes and then kind of turned that into momentum and they rode that one out. That to me, it stands for something. And I think it speaks volumes about what Kalen DeBoer has built. So,
but they also did that against like the 90th best offense.
Listen, I get it. I get it, Dan. Like I totally get it. But I have made a lot of hay on this show going at Alabama for them getting in the playoff and for the way they closed out their season and how the offense has had diminishing returns and this and that. And I know Alabama fans are probably tuned out at this point.
Yeah.
So this is not about dunking on Bama. What they did in round 1 against Oklahoma on the road on a Friday, that was really impressive to me.
Yeah.
There is still a lot of receiving talent and running back talent, but
totally
more notably receiving talent on this roster. And you mentioned a bunch of them, Jeremy Bernard and Isaiah Horton and Lottie Brooks, and even Ryan Williams, if he should emerge from witness protection at some point. Josh Cuevas, right? There's a lot here that I think you got to like about this team. I'm not sure it's enough against a defense that knows they are one-dimensional, that knows the Alabama offense is one-dimensional, and a defense, by the way, that held down both Oregon and Ohio State. But I do not want to go deeper into this preview without at least crediting what Alabama has done because they've been very, very good.
Yeah.
And they were very, very good in round 1.
Yeah. But also
after the first quarter.
If like the okayest or like the most pretty good quarterback in America was playing for Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I don't think we're having this conversation.
Different, maybe different.
Like
maybe
if it's like a Brendan Sorsby or Arch Manning,
But this is where I say if I had wheels, it'd be a bicycle.
Totally true.
But on the Indiana defense side, if we're going to bring up havoc with respect to other defenses, this is the top havoc defense in college football. And it's an interesting combination because they're a havoc defense that forces a lot of big plays, interceptions, sacks, tackles for loss, you name it, fumbles. But they also play the highest percentage of zone, 87% of the time of any team in college football. I watched a bunch of videos this week showing how Indiana and Bryant Haynes, their defensive coordinator, are running a scheme that is more akin to the NFL than college football. There's a lot of nuance here.
Cool.
It reminds me a little bit of the Iowa rushing offense, how it seems simple, but then when you pop the hood and you try to understand it, there's a lot of small wrinkles that don't meet the eye initially. And it sort of underscores the point on coaching and discipline. You cannot run a system like this unless you're very disciplined and you have good communication. Now, what they don't do is blitz you a whole lot. That is a different formula than we have seen against Ty Simpson down the stretch, right? The Auburn game comes to mind. They blitzed the crap out of them. They had some success. They almost could have won that game. But that is not Indiana. Indiana is not a heavy blitzing team at all. So I'm curious to see if they are able to confuse that Alabama passing attack by doing their normal thing and running a very nuanced zone setup, or if they're going to have to overcommit and break tendency a little bit and blitz a little bit more.
And the Alabama offensive line can be had.
It can be, but the Alabama offensive line has also held up pretty well in the face of some of that pressure that they've seen down the stretch.
Well, that stretch included the Georgia SEC championship game. Yeah,
For sure. So I am very curious to see what Indiana's defense looks like. Are they able to get pressure on Ty Simpson? By the way, when I say the normal thing, I got air quotes going here. It's the 17th best pressure rate in the country in terms of their defense. So they get pressure without blitzing.
but they're playing this game on the field, Ty, not on
playing
paper.
on the field. So I'm just curious to see how that manifests in this game. Because Ty Simpson, we could talk about Fernando Mendoza and how he diagnoses the play after the snap and almost went to an Ivy League school and got a business degree from Berkeley or whatever.
Who among us, Ty, didn't nearly end up at Yale?
We could talk about all of that until we're blue in the face. Ty Simpson's pretty good too.
Yeah.
He's pretty good. So I want to see how he diagnoses this. And I think that in and of itself is going to have a very large part to play in who ends up winning this one. But I just think in general, the fact that we've got two zone-heavy defenses that don't like to blitz and two quarterbacks that are both very good at figuring things out.
Yeah.
Along the way, someone's going to have to break a tendency and force the issue.
Yeah. In the rain.
In the rain. Thank you.
Your voice sounds great.
It's starting to peter out.
It's okay. It's okay. It's not showing, Ty.
We got one game left to go after
tired.
this. It's starting to peter out.
That was that old Alabama, like Scott Cochran thing. You never put your hands on your knees, right?
Yeah. No,
you never give that tell that you might be tired.
And I'm almost out of water.
Uh-oh.
So
can we
Indiana wins 27-17.
All right. So we both have Alabama scoring 17 in a losing effort. I have them going to 13. You have them barely covering.
One game left.
Okay. You want to
Y'all
head
stay-
to your corner so your trainer can get you some water?
I'm going to keep going, man.
Okay.
All-State Sugar Bowl. Sean McDonough, Greg McElroy, 8 p.m. ESPN. Number 6 seed, Ole Miss Rebels. Number 3 seed, Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia favored by 6.5 points. Your over-under here is 56.5, so somebody's looking for some points. The SP Plus has it as a 0.3 point difference.
Wow.
Not even one whole point. 0.3 in favor of Georgia.
Yeah.
The winner goes to the Fiesta Bowl. Again, they'd be playing the winner of the Miami-Ohio State game. These teams played already. We saw this game. It's a rematch. Rematch of Week 8
correct?
in Athens. Yep, Georgia won 43-35, a really good game. Georgia was down in that one by 9 points going into the fourth quarter. They ripped off 17 unanswered. They won going away. Got a different coaching matchup this time. Lane Kiffin took his hot yoga to Baton Rouge. So
Is that true? Hold on. Let me fact check this.
he posted a hot yoga picture. I don't know if you saw that.
He's already doing the yogs in
Already-
Baton Rouge?
You could argue it's the only reason he took it.
Oh, okay. There's the better yoga scene in Louisiana? Okay.
I am not connected to the hot yoga scene in Baton Rouge the way maybe I should be as a college football podcaster. Excuse
come
me.
on, Ty. Get that downward dog research in. Come on.
Pete Golding is going to be on the sidelines for the Rebels. Was on the sidelines against Tulane. They won that one by a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a stretch to say that Kirby Smart's got the coaching advantage in this game, but see what happens. Pete Golding deserves a shot. I asked the question at the very top about rust. This is the game where I think rust could factor in.
By the way, works really well with your Ashanti drop. It's about rust, babe, right?
It's about us.
Rust.
It's about
Rust.
us.
That's not bad.
Thank you.
Georgia was playing with such momentum down the stretch. Now to put the brakes on for 24 days,
Yeah.
great for health. Heal
By the
up,
way,
but
disrespectful allusion with an A, disrespectful reference with the brakes and Georgia's driving issues off the field. Come on.
that's not where I was going with it, but okay.
disrespect. Okay, I know. I'm just kidding.
I kind of think the rust factor benefits Ole Miss here. I really do. I went back this morning. I rewatched the game for like the fourth time.
Yeah.
Not a lot of defense in that first game.
No.
Right? 78 total points. You're looking at that from afar. You're not thinking there was a lot of defense. There wasn't a lot of defense. We had a monster game from Gunnar Stockton. We had a good game from Lawson Luckia, 3 touchdowns. We had 221 yards on the ground for Georgia. They only got better from that point. And
Agreed.
it culminated with what they did in the SEC championship. So now I'm thinking to myself, like, all right, how big of a factor will Rust play? Because we saw it last year. You know, this is not like a thing I'm making up. Maybe the seeding had something to do with what we perceived at the time to be Rust, but none of the teams that came off a first round bye won their quarterfinal matchup in last year's playoffs. So, where are you at? How big of a Rust should it play? Will it play in this game? Or are we going to be two dorks who just go with every favorite team?
No, I actually do like Ole Miss in this game. And I hate that I like them on a certain level because I think the best of Gunnar Stockton, which is, by the way, was on display in this Ole Miss game.
He was great. He was really good in that first game.
The best of Georgia eventually came to fruition in this game. They stopped Kejuan Lacey, who was beat up in the Tulane game, as was Trinidad Chambliss, upper body stuff for Chambliss, but came back and played well. I think the rust is probably most apparent in this Georgia situation just because of how well they played down the stretch, even with losing, or not losing, but even with losing the explosive nature of this that this offense can have against Georgia Tech, right? They could not figure out Georgia Tech in that rivalry game in Atlanta. I think with how they finished the year against Alabama and the emotion involved in, you know, Kirby finally beating Alabama for the first time in a while and doing so on that kind of stage in that manner, and then just stopping.
Right.
Kind of concerning to me. Georgia has some key injuries. Obviously, Ole Miss has injuries too. Everybody's beat up at this point, but you know, with what they've had to deal with at linebacker and now losing Drew Bobo at center for the year, and that was, you know, a couple games ago. But there's some key guys who are limited or just full on out for Georgia. I come back to the fact that Georgia barely won this game at home with Gunnar Stockton playing the game of his life. It doesn't mean he hasn't improved since then, which I think he clearly has. It doesn't mean he can't replicate it. He clearly can. I think not only are you dealing with the rust issue for Georgia, you're dealing with the difficulty of beating a very good team twice in the same season. That Ole Miss is afforded the opportunity to correct what Georgia was able to exploit in a mysterious way, whereas Ole Miss knows how Georgia succeeded against Ole Miss. And Ole Miss obviously succeeded against Georgia as well. But I don't know. There's something that I think Ole Miss has a slight diagnostic advantage here. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But there's a reason why it is tough to beat a very good team twice in the same
Good use
season.
of diagnostic here.
I'm mostly looks.
I mean, we're doing this show on like a 5th grade level, but when you pulling diagnostics out, it lends me to think that maybe
we're in middle
you
school.
do have a college degree, Dan. Come on.
Let's not go that far. I like Ole Miss here. I like the explosive nature. The game is inside. I kind of like the emotion involved. I kind of like the lack of rust for Ole Miss. I think it comes out in this game. I do think it's a shootout once again. I have Ole Miss winning this game 35-33. So I guess that over hits for me?
35-33. Wow, that'd be fun.
Yeah. I think they're able to generate big plays. I like the rhythm. And I'm sure Georgia is going to do what a lot of these teams have done, and they play like the 11 on 11, and they play, you know, Oregon. They made a big deal of Oregon playing the sort of simulated game the week before JMU. Like, I don't think Georgia's going to be terribly rusty, but I think Georgia wins this game a week after the SEC championship, possibly comfortably. I think the explosive nature of the Ole Miss offense, to me, the big difference is how much can Ole Miss get off the field on 3rd and medium, 3rd and short. I don't love this Ole Miss run defense, and the best of Georgia on the ground can be super impressive. I think we go back and forth in this game. I think Ole Miss pulls it out.
Man, I went back and forth on this game too. This one in particular, and I was curious to see where you came down on this.
Yeah. I went into this thinking, obviously, Georgia.
Yeah.
Now, my problem is,
me too.
My pick goes against all the 3 other picks that I think one of the best things to do in trying to figure out the unfigure-outable There you go. There's my counter to diagnostic. I just invented a word. Is if the final score is 34-10, who is the most obvious team to you that scored 34? And if the final score of this game is 34-10, I think I would pretty strongly lean Georgia.
Yeah, so would I.
And I'm going against that tie because that way I can sit on the fence.
Well, like I said, I went back, I rewatched it this morning. I feel like I rewatched this game so many times. I have this game like down to memory at this point. I expect that this game is going to have some similarities, but also some key differences. And so a few things that come to mind for me. One, if you go back and watch that first game, Georgia did a lot of side-to-side stuff.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of trying to pull Ole Miss apart horizontally, and then they found success running up the middle.
Yeah.
I mentioned 220 some odd yards on the ground. It was a lot of doing just that. Pull them apart, inside zone up the middle. Go back and rewatch. You can't miss it. Sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
I think we're going to continue to see some of that from the Georgia offense in this game. Two, one thing that I hope Georgia will fix from the, I'm not rooting for any team, but from the Georgia fan perspective, one thing that I hope Georgia will fix is how they play Trinidad Chambliss. They need to do a much better job keeping him inside the pocket. He killed him when he broke contain in that first game. And for me, this is the biggest key to the game. If you're Ole Miss, if you're Charlie Weiss Jr., who is still on the staff and still calling the plays, you want to get him outside. You want to put him in a position where he is making Georgia defenders either commit to him running or dropping back and allowing him to run. That definitely put Georgia in a box in that first game. So do more of that if you're Ole Miss. And if you're Georgia, please stop that because that gave them headaches, at least for the first 3 quarters of the game before they figured it out. And then 3, Ole Miss needs to get more out of Kejuan Lacey if they want to win this game. He had 2.6 yards per carry in that first meeting. They couldn't get him in space at all.
It was even less, by the way. You take away his one, like a 10 or 12 yard run. It was nothing.
They could not get him in space. He got gobbled up by the interior of that Georgia defensive line. They got to find a way to get him to the edge. I don't know if it's through the passing game as an extension of the run or if they scheme up the way that they're running a little bit differently, but they got to do something to get him a little bit more wiggle room because that dude's an athlete and they did not utilize him to his full capacity in that first matchup.
Yeah.
What stands out to me though, and we saw this the deeper we got into that game against Ole Miss the first time around, and especially so the deeper we got into the season with Georgia. Georgia cleaned itself up on defense a lot.
Agreed.
Especially as they got deeper into the year. Georgia is better along the lines. They are better along the lines than Ole Miss. And I think their defense improved dramatically since that first game. So my sense is that they're better along the lines than they were when they first played back on October the 18th. And they're still better now. And this is going to be a different matchup because of that improvement. They're just a better team now than they were. So rust being what it is could definitely play a factor. I want the points here, but I think Georgia's winning.
Okay.
I've got it at 31-27, Georgia. I think it's a good game, though. And if Ole Miss, much like the Miami game that I talked about at the beginning, if you come to me on January the 2nd or whenever we do our live stream, I guess we're doing a live stream after this on New Year's Day. Is that the plan?
Yes.
So this show will be out. Our next show will be out on...
If your voice makes it.
If my voice makes it, our next show will be out on Friday, January the 2nd. Bright and early.
Late night, Thursday night stream, recording of it Friday morning.
If we record that show and it's Ole Miss and Miami winning those games, I would not be surprised at all. I could definitely look at this game the first time around and come up with a few things that maybe Ole Miss could have done differently that would have yielded different results, that will yield different results this time around. I also think, and we haven't mentioned this at all.
Henry Parrish, by the way, connected
Henry
to
Parrish.
Ole Miss Miami.
So much of the focus is on Lane Kiffin leaving, but we also should maybe focus a little bit on what Lane Kiffin leaving does for the mentality of this Ole Miss team.
Also true.
I thought they played with real purpose against Tulane. And granted, that might have been a mismatch.
and
I
they
think
were at home. Yeah.
We knew that going in, and it was at home. There was a lot working to their advantage. But this is a really strong group of athletes out there.
Mm-hmm.
They might be more athletic than Georgia. And so that should not be overlooked going into a matchup like this.
Yeah.
I like this team. I just think I like the matchup a little bit more for Georgia right now. So I'm going 31-27.
That's all reasonable.
So we really only disagree on one game.
Yeah.
And it's this one.
Mm-hmm.
Let us know your thoughts. Solidverbal@gmail.com. As I said, this is going to be our final show of 2025. Hope everybody enjoys their new year. Please stay safe out there.
Mm-hmm.
Please enjoy your evening out there. Please come on back on New Year's Day at midnight if you're able to stay up to midnight for a second consecutive night, if that's your thing. Hop on the stream with us.
Yeah, any special plans? Watch these games with anybody? Cook something special?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think I got any big plans.
No? All right.
I don't think I got any big plans.
I'll make the bean dip. Bean
Okay.
dip, delicious. I posted the recipe before. It's like a chorizo bean dip, delicious. Yeah,
I haven't decided yet.
Okay.
We'll figure it out.
Mama H involved. Uncle Joe.
I think
interested in these games.
I think we are in our own little like hermetically sealed bubble over here because we're both sick. Me more so than Kate, but we are not inviting people to be around us because I still kind of sound like hell and I'm coughing a lot more than I have been on this stream. Weirdly, like I don't know if I'm mustering the energy to suppress the cough.
You got some humidifiers going?
I literally every humidifier is going right now. I've tried everything to reboot my voice and reboot my body as much as I can. I don't feel good, but I'm doing my best over here.
Is somebody ready for you as soon as you hit stop on this stream and recording? Is somebody ready for you with one of those giant foil blankets like you just ran an Iron Man to collapse into?
Have you ever had the feeling when you're doing a show like this, when you're in the throes of anything? And I know I've definitely had this at night when we do our streams.
Yeah. By the way, drop in the comments any recommendations. Ty will take it all.
Yeah, whatever. Please. Solidverbal@gmail.com if email is your chosen thing, whatever. I have had on several occasions throughout the course of this recording where I started feeling lightheaded, like I might black out.
Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah.
By the way,
where you kind of lose track of what you're saying, and it gets like everybody's had that from time to time when you're in the middle of something and the energy removes itself from your body. I've had that happen,
like in the middle of a PowerPoint.
Yeah. I'm fighting through it, man. For good of the cause.
Any available come to your house IV services in the Lehigh Valley? Not a sponsor, could be.
I didn't look that up, but could be. Could be a sponsor.
I think they exist for people with like really, truly horrible sicknesses or truly horrible hangovers with people with too much money.
I did try liquid IV.
No.
Former sponsor, still could be. And I found that it irritates my throat to the point where I just start coughing uncontrollably. So I've stopped that now. And I'm back on the sauce being straight water.
Yeah. Get a ton of sleep as well. Don't talk to anybody but myself.
Why don't we leave it there? Please do throw us a follow or a subscribe if you have yet to do so. Please do follow along on social media so that you don't miss any of our postings about when the next round of Bowl Bingo is going to be available. I gotta talk to our guys to figure out when we can get a new card up there. It might not be until next week, simply because I can't put another card out until we know what the playoff matchups are going to be for the semifinals.
Also true.
So bear with me on that front. We've had really good participation, just as we did last year. Again, it is free for all to play. We would encourage everybody to play for fabulous prizes. But again, give me a little bit of grace here. I'm behind on my prizes. I'm behind on my announcements. I'm behind on literally all things involving my life right now.
Yeah.
Because I got really sick right after Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
So,
well, that will teach you, Ty, to party with the Laker girls in Macau.
I know.
This always happens when you do this.
I know. It does.
Okay.
All that being said, a 90-minute stream. Got a lot going on here. We appreciate everybody stopping on by. Happy New Year to you and yours as you are listening to this. Hopefully before 2026 so that some of these predictions aren't completely obsolete.
Yeah.
But it has been a fun year, and it looks to be another fun round of college football playoff games. So I'm excited.
Agree. Can't wait. Go get some rest.
For that guy over there, my good friend, Dan Rubenstein, from myself, Ty Hildenbrand, thanks as always for downloading, for listening, for supporting what we do. We'll talk to you all in 2026. Stay solid.